This is not a myth for the curious. This is a code sacred, encrypted, protected for millennia by those who knew humanity was not ready. Until now, it begins in silence. Not the silence of a quiet room, but a silence so deep it devours your thoughts. That silence, like the stillness before a storm, is where Thoth wrote the code. The Egyptians called him Jehuti, the Greeks, Hermes Trismegistus. He was more than a god, he was a frequency. You've heard stories of the Emerald Tablet, of phrases like, as above, so below. But hidden between those verses was a vibrational cipher, what the initiates called the remembrance tone, a pure note, encoded not in language, but in vibration. This code is not something you read, it's something you awaken. Some say it begins with a ringing in the ears, others feel it like a pressure in the forehead. But when the code begins to stir in you, you know, the air feels heavier, time slows, and you begin to remember. Not memories of this life, but something far older. So before we proceed, do not continue unless you are ready. There are side effects, nightmares, spontaneous weeping, a sense that you no longer belong to the time you're in. But if you are ready, take a breath, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 6, again, and now, we begin. Beneath the sands of Saqqara, they whisper, there lies a chamber not marked on any official map, a chamber that predates the pyramids, where Thoth first whispered the code into stone. It is called the Memory Temple. This was not a place of worship, but of vibration. The walls were etched with tones, not words, frequencies encoded in glyphs. No modern archaeologist has dared to translate. The air inside, they say, hums without wind, a resonance so low it vibrates your bones. Those who entered reported strange visions, faces from other lives, unknown languages they somehow understood, the sense that their body was no longer theirs. They weren't hallucinating, they were remembering. Let me tell you what they don't print in textbooks. Remembrance is not nostalgia. It's pine. It's beauty so raw it rips through your chest. It's the weight of knowing you once held stars in your hands and chose to forget. You were not born into this life to learn. You were born to remember what you already knew. That's why the code matters. But there's a danger. People chase the light without preparing their vessel. If you open the vault too soon, your mind will fracture. So before you listen to the inner tone, you must purify. Now, do this. Sit in total silence. Place both hands over your heart. Repeat, in a whisper, I accept only what is truly mine. Say it 7 times. Don't fake it. Feel the vibration behind the words. Feel it echo against your ribs. The code is not unlocked through meaning but through frequency. If you do it right, you may feel a subtle shift, like the air around you is listening. This is the threshold. You've stepped into the temple, even if your body hasn't moved. They call it the tone of return, because once you hear it not with your ears, but with your soul, you will never truly belong to this world again. It's not a sound you find. It's a sound that finds you. I still remember the first time it came to me. I was standing in the salt caves of an unmarked coast in southern Crete. There was no light, no echo, just breath. And then it began. Not music, not vibration, something else. Like a bell made from memory itself, ringing across lifetimes. I dropped to my knees and wept not because I was sad, but because I recognized something. A fragment of myself I thought had been lost to time. That's what the tone of return does. It stitches the soul back together. You see, Thoth encoded this frequency inside all of us, buried beneath years of noise, fear, ego, and forgetting. It can't be taught. It can only be reawakened. And here is how. The ritual of tuning. Sit with your spine completely straight. No cushions. Let gravity remind you of your roots. Inhale slowly for 5 counts. Exhale with the syllable, Orlum, Re. Stretch it like molten gold. Repeat this 3 times, then sit in stillness for 60 seconds. Do not move, do not scratch. Let the vibration linger. You may begin to feel warmth behind the forehead, a subtle buzzing, or a drop in temperature around your hands. These are not tricks, these are signs. Signs that the inner tone is waking up. But I must warn you, do not seek this sound for escape. Remembrance is responsibility. you will begin to sense truths that may unravel your old beliefs. People may seem hollow. Time may feel elastic. That is not madness. That is return. And when the tone settles deep into your being, you will feel as if something ancient inside you has been watching you all along and has finally opened its eyes. They say there is an eye beneath your eyes, a watcher behind your seeing, a witness buried so deep, you forget it is not just a metaphor. Thoth did not give this gift to kings or priests. He gave it to the still ones, the ones who could stand inside their silence long enough to see through illusion. This is the eye of remembrance. You've heard it called the third eye, but that term has become cheap. Pop spirituality turned it into decoration, but in the temples of Kem, initiates did not call it a chakra. They called it Sekhem Aten, the hidden fire that sees. To open it is not pleasant. It is not about colors or visions or floating in astral fields. It's the tearing down of everything false. When Sekhem Aten opens, it's like someone tore the mask off your life and whispered, "This is what you've always been." Not everyone can take that. Some get headaches. Some lose all desire for things they used to love. Food tastes different. Sleep becomes a theater of strange truths. But these are side effects of waking up. Now, here's how to begin to ignite the eye. The still flame practice. Sit in total darkness or wear a blindfold. Focus all your attention on the point between your brows, not the skin, but behind it. Breathe in for 6 seconds. Hold for 6. Exhale for 6. Do this for 6 rounds. Then whisper, "I allow the eye to see what I forgot." Repeat only once. Then, wait. You may not feel anything at first, or you may feel a pulse, a vibration. Some hear a subtle inner chime. Some weep. The eye doesn't always speak in visions. Sometimes it speaks in knowing, a download of clarity, a sudden realization so deep it breaks you open like a cracked stone, revealing a crystal inside. And once it's opened, there is no going back. You will begin to see not only what is, but what has always been behind the veil. And that is the beginning of remembrance. This is not ordinary breath. It is the breath of continuum, a flow so ancient it is said to stretch across all your incarnations like a golden thread. In the temple schools of Thoth, breath was never just breath. It was the bridge, the living cord between the body and the spirit, between forgetting and remembrance. And yet, most people breathe like they're trying to stay unconscious. They take shallow sips of air, like they're afraid of the memory hidden in their lungs. But when you breathe intentionally, deeply, rhythmically, you activate what the old mystics called Ankh-Ptah, the breath gate. They taught that this breath wasn't simply oxygen, it was a frequency carrier, a code imprinted with memory. Your memory. Every long exhale was like sweeping dust off an ancient tablet. Every breath in was like receiving a message your ancestors buried inside your blood. I remember the first time I practiced the breath of continuum. It was during an eclipse. My teacher said nothing, only handed me a candle and pointed to the desert. "Breathe until you forget your name," he said. And I did. For 22 minutes I inhaled and exhaled in perfect rhythm. At the 17th minute, I felt a rupture like a door creaking open, not outside, inside. Images flooded me. A temple, a boy with no name, a war, a betrayal, a vow to return. It wasn't imagination. It was remembrance. Now, I offer this breath to you. Thoth's 4, 7, 8 gate. Sit upright, hands on knees, mouth closed. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 7 seconds. Exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds. Let it sound like the wind leaving a tunnel. Repeat Sheba cycles. On the 6th or 7th round, you may feel space collapse. Your mind might wander. Let it. You're traveling. You may see faces, hear languages, or feel your spine vibrate like a singing bowl struck from within. This is the gate. But heed this warning. Do not overdo it. The body must be ready. The nervous system must be steady. Otherwise, the downloads will overwhelm you. Side effects include nausea, spontaneous laughter, déjà vu, and the sensation of being watched by yourself. If this happens, smile. You're breathing like a soul that finally remembers it's eternal. They say Thoth never wrote with ink. He etched with vibration. His true writings weren't meant to be read with the eyes, but felt with the bones. And among his most guarded inscriptions was the sigil of echoes. Not a symbol, not a word, a sound form. The ancient priests would carve it into temple pillars not to decorate, but to resonate. When the desert winds passed through these sigils, the air would sing. Not metaphorically, literally. A low hum, like the voice of the stone remembering who shaped it. Scholars have long dismissed it as acoustic coincidence. But what they didn't know is this. The sigil activates when you become the wind. You don't touch it, you vibrate it. And once activated, it begins to echo, not just in the temple, but in you. A mirroring, a memory, a code returning to its source. I didn't believe it either, until I stood in the hypogeum beneath the temple of Hathor and whispered the sigil's call. It was a tone barely above silence, a deep, trembling NGHAAH drawn from the belly, not the throat. And when I spoke it, the walls responded, the air shimmered, my fingertips buzzed, and for a moment I couldn't tell where I ended and the stone began. Here's how to begin your own echo. Sigil activation rite. Inhale deeply, place both palms over your chest. On the exhale, slowly vibrate. NGAAA, nasal and low, let it shake the ribcage. Do not say it, vibrate it. Repeat 3 times, then sit in silence. Let the air around you answer. You may not hear anything, but listen deeper. The first sign of activation isn't audible, it's emotional. A deep wave, a grief you can't explain, or a joy that feels stolen from the stars. These are not your feelings. They are remnants, echoes of your soul, bouncing back to you after lifetimes lost in silence. Caution. If done insincerely, nothing will happen. This isn't theatre. The sigil demands presence. Even mockery will be absorbed and mirrored. But if done properly, the resonance may follow you into dreams, into conversations, into moments where the world feels like it's humming your name. That's the echo, and once it begins, it never stops. Not all movement is motion. Some movements awaken. Some trace a pattern back through the spiral of lifetimes and bring your soul home. The ancients knew this. That's why every temple of Thoth, every corridor, every chamber was built on spirals, not for aesthetics, but for resonance. Because memory, true soul memory, is spiral-shaped. Think of it. Time doesn't move in a line. You don't remember the past. You orbit it, again and again, until you break the loop or ignite the core. The spiral is not a path. It's a mirror, and when walked correctly, when breathed into, it begins to remember you. I once stood in the underground labyrinth beneath Dendera. I wasn't given permission, I was called. There was a spiral carved into the floor. I thought it was decorative. Then I stepped inside. 1 turn, I felt light. 2 turns, I forgot where I was. 3 turns, and suddenly, I remembered who I wasn't. That spiral stripped the false from me like peeling layers of smoke from fire. By the time I reached the center, I was shaking. I didn't cry. I existed. You don't need a temple. Your body is a spiral. Your breath, your spine, your energy field. It all coils like galaxies do. To activate it, here is the rite. Spiral resonance practice. Stand barefoot, eyes closed. Begin to sway in slow, circular motion. Start small hips, then shoulders, then head. On each exhale, hum softly. Let the sound follow the motion. After 3 minutes, speak aloud. I return through the spiral of what I have always been. If done with full presence, the spiral will show itself. Not in visions, but in sensations. You may feel as if you're being pulled inward. That's normal. You're not being drained, you're re-entering the core. Some see flashes of light. Others hear phrases they've never learned but understand instantly. A few even report full memory downloads, entire timelines falling back into place. But here's the warning. Do not force it. The spiral opens only to sincerity. If you chase results, you're walking in circles. But if you walk in surrender, the spiral begins to remember you. And that's when the true remembrance begins. not of a moment, but of a mission. Not all light is true. Some burns only to distract. Some mimics the divine just enough to blind you from the real path. Thoth warned of this in the hidden verses, words etched in reverse script, only revealed when viewed under violet flame. Those verses speak not of power, but of bewitchment. The false flame, it looks like truth, feels like warmth, even sounds like awakening, but it leads only to one thing: spiritual exhaustion, a loop of rituals with no resonance, a high with no heart. I speak of this because I've walked it. Years ago, I fell into a community that chanted light, wore sacred robes, invoked divine names. I was intoxicated by the glow of it all. But something was wrong. I kept asking questions, and each answer felt hollow, like wax shaped into statues of gods, but melting under scrutiny. Then one night, in silence, I saw it. A flicker behind my closed eyes, not golden, but grey. I felt drained, disoriented, cold. That was the false flame feeding off my hunger. It doesn't attack, it seduces. That's the danger. If you're chasing proof, trying to accumulate techniques like trophies, or performing rituals with the ego whispering, "Look how awakened I am," the false flame is already in you. Thoth warned, the seeker who seeks for display will never touch the true fire. So how do you avoid this trap? The flame of silence, right? Sit facing east before sunrise. Do not chant, do not move, just be. Let your spine rise like a pillar. Let your mind melt into breath. After 11 minutes, place both palms over your heart and whisper. If it is false, let it fall away. Then, listen, not with ears, but with awareness. If you feel uneasy, off balance, or emotionally chaotic afterward, it's working. The false flame hates silence. Over the next 48 hours, you may notice things breaking off, beliefs, teachers, even friendships. Let them fall. This is spiritual detox, the clearing of counterfeit light. And here's the mystery. Once the false is burned away, the real flame emerges. Not as brilliance, but as stillness that glows. A warmth not on the skin, but in the soul. It won't shout for your attention. It will wait, like it always has. Burn away the false, and the remembrance will return like fire in the bones. It is said that Thoth's final teachings were not spoken. They were transmitted through silence, not absence, not void, but a silence so rich, so full, it carried more meaning than 1,000 scrolls. The initiates called it Nun Resh, the code inside the stillness. This is where the true awakening begins, because everything before chanting, breathing, spirals was preparation. Techniques are ladders, but remembrance is the fall into silence. But beware, this is not the silence you seek in meditation apps or yoga studios. This is the cosmic silence, the raw, unedited frequency of who you were before language. The silence of the tomb and the womb. I entered it once, and it changed me. It was on the 3rd night of fasting in the Sinai desert. No food, no fire, just sky. At some point, the wind stopped. Even the insects fell quiet. And there it was, the silence code. Not empty, but woven with pulses, like braille for the soul. And suddenly, I knew. I didn't think. I didn't remember. I knew that I had lived before, that I had stood beside Thoth, not as a student, but as one who forgot. You see, silence is the womb of remembrance, but you must enter it properly. Rite of sacred stillness. 1 hour before sunrise, prepare a space. No music, no phones, no light. Sit cross-legged, hands resting lightly on your thighs. Inhale for 6, exhale for 6. Do not chant, do not move. When the mind begins to speak, do not follow, just listen. After 11 minutes, silently ask, "What do I already know?" Wait, that's all. If you expect visions, you will miss the whisper. The code does not speak, it unlocks, like a vault door sliding open inside your chest. And the first thing that pours out is recognition. You might cry, or feel anger, or feel utter stillness, like everything inside you just stopped. That's the remembrance. The moment your soul says, "There you are." But be warned, if you break the silence too soon, if you force insight or rush to get the answer, you will only meet the echo of your own impatience. The code can't be taken, it can only be received. And once received, it stays. You'll carry it in how you speak, how you breathe, how you walk into a room, and others will notice. They won't know what's changed, but they'll feel it, because you've remembered something they've only dreamed of. Among the scrolls attributed to Thoth, there is one line scholars have long dismissed as metaphor. The eye that remembers must die once and open twice. But it's not metaphor, it's a rite. The ancient initiates called it becoming twice born, and it is the final preparation before receiving Thoth's full remembrance code. To be twice born is not to reincarnate. It is to awaken within this life, as if you had never truly lived before. It's terrifying. The first birth is of body, but the second is of truth. The moment it happens, the world doesn't look new, it looks unrecognizable. You no longer act out of identity, but resonance. What once felt urgent becomes meaningless, and the things you ignored, the silence, the stillness, the vibration of your name, when spoken gently, they become everything. I remember my own second birth, not in ritual, not in meditation, but in a mirror. After months of breathwork, chants, fasts, I looked at my reflection one morning and did not know who was looking back. It wasn't dissociation, it was clarity. That face, that life, was the mask. And behind it, I felt the echo of who I had been for thousands of years. Not past lives, not stories, but presence. That's the mirror of the twice born. Not glass, but stillness. A place inside where you meet the version of you that never forgot. To activate it, the mirror rite of remembrance. Find a darkened room, a single mirror, no light except a soft candle behind you. Gaze gently into your reflection, not the face, but the space between your eyes. Inhale deeply, whisper, "Who was I before the forgetting?" Keep eye contact with your reflection for 7 full minutes. Do not break the gaze, do not speak again. Around minute 5, many report a shift. The face changes, subtle at first, then unmistakable. It may morph, it may age, it may become unfamiliar. Some scream, some collapse, some fall into trance. These are the signs of shedding, not hallucination, but remembrance. And when it ends, you will not feel peace. You will feel emptiness, a sacred blankness, like a slate being made ready. This is not ego death, this is ego surrender, the final veil, because the next time you look into that mirror, you will remember not just your name, but your function, the reason you returned in this life, the vibration you carry. You become twice born, and from that moment forward, everything responds to you differently. People will shift in your presence. Technology will glitch, animals may stare, children may cry or smile. You have changed your frequency, and the world knows. There is one final secret, one last current in the code of Thoth, the scroll that no temple holds, the glyph that no tablet bears, because it is written in you. It's called the scroll that writes itself. The final mystery is this: after all the rituals, the sounds, the spirals, the breath, the mirror, you become the scribe. Not metaphorically, energetically. Your body becomes the pen, your vibration, the ink. Your presence begins to imprint the field around you. Every word, gesture, and silence you emit begins to write into reality. This is why remembrance is not for everyone. To truly remember is to reclaim responsibility for everything you are creating, not just in your own life, but in the world's energetic field. The moment I realized this, I wept for hours, not from fear, but from the weight of knowing that my bitterness had echoed, that my silence had shaped others, that every time I withheld my truth, a sacred pattern collapsed somewhere in the web of light. But I also knew, every time I spoke from stillness, every time I touched another with presence, every time I aligned with remembrance, the scroll began to write a new world. You are now carrying the code. Whether you realize it or not, if you've reached this far, Your field is already shifting. The tones have landed. The spiral has stirred. The inner flame is lit. So now, I ask you to do 3 things, not as a YouTube routine, but as a ritual of resonance. Comment below and write, "The scroll has awakened in me," or "I remember who I am." End quote. Let it be a seal, a signal to the others, a beacon. Subscribe to this channel, not for content, but for continuity, because this is not the end, this is a temple in motion. Every subscriber adds frequency to the field, every like an energy spike, every share an echo sent to another soul who's waiting for their signal. Be still tonight. Sit with what you've heard. Let it stir. Let it undo. And if tears come, do not wipe them away. They are sacred. They are ink from the scroll. You are no longer a seeker. You are a rememberer. And the energy you hold now, it is older than the stars, and far more powerful than you've been told. Guard it. Share it. Live it. Welcome back.